Welcome to Presentation, Ponder, Practice. During the period of the divided kingdom, God sent a prophet to the northern kingdom of Israel. Hosea means the Lord saves, or He has delivered. In order to save the people, God would reveal to them their true condition. Then He would make promises of their one day returning to Him. The prophet Hosea delivers God's message to Israel, saying that you are committing spiritual adultery by worshiping the Baals, the pagan gods of Canaan. God was terribly hurt and angered by this rejection. He was extremely irritated and annoyed with Israel because Ephraim, as Hosea refers to the nation, sought out help from Egypt and other alliances instead of turning to God. Hosea chapter 1 and verse 1 reads, "The word of the Lord which came to Hosea the son of Beri during the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and during the days of Jeroboam the son of Joash," this is Jeroboam the second, king of Israel. 4 kings of Judah and 1 king of Israel supply a rigid timestamp for when the word of the Lord came to Hosea. The account begins with the Lord telling his prophet Hosea, "Go, take to yourself a wife of harlotry and have children of harlotry, for the land commits flagrant harlotry, forsaking the Lord." Verse 2. Hosea was commanded to marry an immoral woman who would be an adulteress. This would illustrate what the people of the land had done toward God. The leaders especially forsook God and committed spiritual adultery. The children of Gomer would represent the people of Israel who followed their leaders into adultery against God. Hosea took Gomer, the daughter of Diblam, to be his wife, and she bore him a son. Verse 3. Gomer was a real person. Hosea, the man of God, experienced true-to-life, painful situations indicative of the pain and experience that God had faced because of Israel. Although this is not completely clear on the basis of textual criticism, the most likely situation is that Hosea took Gomer to be his wife, and together they had 3 children. Then she abandoned her husband for other lovers, thus becoming the adulterous woman. The Lord told Hosea, "Name him Jezreel. For yet a little while, and I will punish the house of Jehu for the bloodshed of Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel." Verse 4. The first child born was a son. The name given to him by the Lord was Jezreel. 1 Chronicles chapter 4 and verse 3 speaks of a town by the same name. The town and the surrounding valley were familiar to Israelites. It was a place known for the shedding of blood. The name means God sows. God explains the name by pronouncing a visit of similar proportions in bloodshed which came on Jezreel to be brought upon the house of Jehu and be the end of Israel. Jehu should have learned a lesson from what happened in the valley of Jezreel about apostasy, 2 Kings chapters 9 and 10. The house of Jehu, the nation's leaders, and the house of Israel, the nation itself, would be punished for not doing better than those who were destroyed under the leadership of Jehu because of apostasy against God. 2 Kings chapter 10 and verse 30. The then ruling king, Jeroboam II, happens to be that 4th king of the Jehu dynasty mentioned in verse 30. On that day, the Lord said, "I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel." God would bring down the king with his dynasty and the nation in one act. Gomer conceived again and gave birth, this time to a daughter. The Lord named her Lo-ruhamah. Lo-ruhamah means has not obtained compassion, or not pitied, or not loved. The name was assigned to the people of Israel. God explained this name, also saying, "For I will no longer have compassion on the house of Israel." Verse 6. God's grace and love go beyond the compassion he withholds. Thus, he would forever forgive them and have compassion on the house of Judah and deliver them by the Lord their God, and not deliver them by bow, sword, battle, horses, or horsemen. Verse 7. Salvation would come through the house of Judah, which was the house of David. God would not save his people from the Assyrian captivity, but he would make them a new people, not of war or of any of its might or power. Zechariah chapter 4 and verse 6. Gomer weaned Lo-ruhamah, then conceived and gave birth to a son. Verse 8. The Lord again named the child. This third child was named Lo-ammi, meaning not my people. God explained the name, "For you are not my people, and I am not yours." Verse 9. With these words, God reversed the covenant bond of Exodus chapter 6 and verse 7. God was rejecting Israel and turning away from her people. God turns right around and restates the covenant promise, verses 10 and 11. Yet the number of the sons of Israel will be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it is said to them, "You are not my people," it will be said to them, "You are the sons of the living God." And the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel will be gathered together, and they will appoint for themselves one leader, and they will go up from the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. The people were sinners. God was faithful. Both realities were and are true. God, who gives victory and life, will regain his family. The reuniting of the house of David and the house of Israel was prophesied to come under the leadership of one king, the Messianic king, which later is revealed in the Old Testament to be Jesus, or the coming Messiah, which is revealed to be Jesus. Ezekiel develops this thought further in Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 18 through 25. But the unified people would grow up as vegetation out of the ground. Remember, Jezreel means God sows. The ultimate fulfillment comes when the Israel of God stands under their one head, Christ. Like with Hosea, God has work for us to do. Sometimes it's not pleasant. We are called, though, to do his will. Breaking a marriage covenant is like breaking a covenant with God. Rather than be immoral in living like Gomer, or immoral like Israel by spiritual adultery, we should choose to follow God and to do so faithfully. We need God to sow, grow, and harvest his good nature in us. If we do not carry out his will, we will be defeated. We will not receive compassion, and we will not be considered God's people. When we turn to God, he gives victory and life. He gives growth and hope. Be God's faithful child, and may God bless you.